What about this then? That's not a team we had to talk about much. I wanted to get that topic out of the way. Let's move on to a spicy one then. So, King T, here's what I want to know is this. Everyone was telling me they were loving this Team Liquid when they got Yekindar, when they had the Cologne run, when they did this run at Pro League. Everyone was telling me, oh, it's the future, this is it. And everyone was telling me going into the major, this is a contender. You know, the teams that can win the major, it's like FaZe now. And then everyone within their top 5 was getting to Team Liquid, right? What do you think of Team Liquid now, and can they win this event?
This is a team I've struggled and battled with, I think, mentally and in conversations with other people, just trying to figure out. I like Yekindar generally, and on this team it seemed to be a quick fix, but unfortunately it's not really seeming like it's a long-term solution, and it's created another problem where I think the issue more lies in what is Nitro doing here? Because he's clearly not the greatest tactical IGL. He's clearly not doing hard entry, like, run through smokes, do the nonsense that Yekindar does to create space, even though Yekindar does it to get kills. Like, he's clearly taken up this weird role, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Like, prime, liquid, Nitro Liege entry duo, we're not seeing that. And we're not seeing some tactical masterclass. So it's just a pain to wrap your head around as to where do you make the change? How do you make this change? And can you make it work with Nitro? That's the final little, maybe there's an edge case where you make it work with Nitro, maybe change up what a Liege is doing, but I just don't like the look of this team. I think their map pool is okay. They're still going to win probably at least one series here, even though they are in a tough group. But I don't really get the roster right now. It's doing my nutting.
Where are you at, Paladin?
I will completely admit that I was one of those people very, very high on Liquid initially.
You are from North America, so we will give you a slight pass on that one. Don't
exactly.
It's okay. I hope everyone has to have that course.
Exactly. But over time, I've also been very apprehensive with exactly what you're saying, King T. Nitro in his role on this team, he's playing very middle of the pack roles. It feels as though he is trying to he's put into positions where he can get numbers. It's not like he's put into scenarios where he shouldn't be getting numbers. And I think his best event thus far was the fall finals, and even that it was kind of a mind-blowing series against Na'Vi that honestly sample size suggests that it is a flash in the pan. It is not going to happen again. And I think the biggest issue as of right now for me, more than Nitro, is that Elige doesn't look like the prime Elige that we were looking for. And yeah, you got Yekindar, and he's hard carrying you through games. You've got consistent NAF, obviously producing numbers for you. And OC's hit or miss, but I don't think that OC should be the end-all, be-all for deciding this game. I think it should be, is Elige comfortable? Can Elige frag out? And I just don't think that he's comfortable right now. And I don't know if it's the system. I don't know if it's Elige not feeling comfortable with what Nitro is producing fragging-wise. I don't know what it is, but I think that a priority for this team should always be, is Elige comfortable? Can he produce the numbers? Because right now he looks mortal against top 10, top 5 teams, and that is an issue in my opinion. I think that this team lives and dies by him and him alone, and it always has been. That's been the Liquid identity for quite some time now. And as you're saying, I think Yekindar is a short-term solution, because now you're starting to see the cracks within the system where Nitro isn't necessarily producing enough numbers. Elige doesn't feel comfortable. OC seems bang average. And really you're looking towards NAF to kind of plug all your holes, and he's such a valuable piece for this Team Liquid roster, but it's not enough to kind of let everything else fall by the wayside and just give them all the keys to the castle that they're a great team right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. One of the problems with this team, if you notice, is it's actually something I've been thinking about a lot more in terms of like roster moves, which is the trickiest roster moves I've noticed is where you keep adding players. This is basically essentially what Henry G did wrong with Cloud9. You keep adding players where it's like, yeah, he's all right, actually. Let's see what the next player is. I mean, he's all right. Let's just see. And then eventually at the end of the team, you're like, where's all the best players? Like, if I'm going to be the number one team in the world, I need like a bunch of banger players. Like, I'd actually rather, like, in my opinion, this is a bit of a tangent. I'd rather have a problem like Vitality where I have like a godlike player like Zero and then I just figure out the other players than where it's like I've got a bunch of good players. I think Mouse is like this. I've got a bunch of good players, but like there's not one player that's realistically like a top 5 player in the world. There's not really anyone who's like the best at their role. We're like good at a bunch of maps, but we're not the best on them. You know what I mean? Like I actually think it's worse to sort of be like pretty good, but not the best at any one element, either star player or IGL or best on this one map. I actually think it's a lot easier to work with limited variables in that sense. So that's the problem I have with the Liquid move. I think they've sort of made moves over the year which have gradually gotten to the point like they are now, where they're like, what, let's say like the 6th best team or the 7th best team in the world. The issue is, though, because they don't have like mega strengths anywhere, they're not that team that's like, well, we're 6th. Like in my opinion, this is what Outsiders was. Like, we're 6th, but like, hey, maybe we could win the event. Like, we did. I mean, obviously did the miracle run, but that's the problem I have with Liquid at the moment. Is I actually even feel like everyone could have a different, like the Nitro angle's a very valid one. He's a fucking terrible individual player, except for that one fucking series at Blast that just temporarily boosted him. And then also, they're hardly getting props for an amazing fucking led team. And then on top of that, you have every bloody interview. Your Kindar's like, by the way, I had top man to breathe and walk and chew bubblegum. Like, there's that as well. So, like, the problem with that one that I don't think everyone's thought through on Liquid is, if that is true, then it's making Nitro look even worse, you idiots. Like, the minimum we needed to do was, you guys just don't know what he's doing. And in the comms, you know, he's straight fired. He's calling everything right. It's us fucking it up. Because I agree, the Nitro one's an obvious one. The joke is the OC one, which I've been a big bugbear man. It's not even the biggest problem, mate. Look, it's not a great scenario, but it's not even the biggest problem. Like you say, up and down. Sometimes he has good games. Sometimes he's all right. He's fine. And then the Elige one is a big concern, because the problem is, on paper, that's the one player you do not consider cutting, especially because you hope he does get back to peak form. And he has been mega hit and miss. Like the scary thing about Elige is, it's not even like he just has like 3 bad months. He'll have like a good event and then just a terrible event. And it's like, there's not really a logic, it seems, to which one it is. So on the Liquid one, I'm open to all possible solutions. I think something has to change, in my opinion. I wouldn't stick with this lineup now. I know they've only just got Yekindar, but they've realistically had him for 6 months now. Like, there's just been a real lineup. So I still feel like I would make a move, but I'm totally open, by the way, as to what the move would be. It doesn't have to be my boy OC goes for someone else. You could do, like, the IGL one would be a very interesting one. There's another one. The other reason why I think the Nitro card has to stay on the table is because the difference is, this is where it all depends on name as well. If I told you, oh, I'm bringing in, like, doesn't have to be character, could be like MSL. If that's what I'm bringing MSL into Team Liquid tomorrow, you'd at least give him a chance with these players before you start cutting people. You'd go, oh, whoa, let's see how he uses this player, and then how he sets all. You know, that would be an interesting prospect. So that makes me think they should consider that. Sadly, though, I will say, this might sound fucked up, but there's a detail people in CSGO don't know, which is when I did my interview with Steel, the former CSGO in-game leader of Chaos and all those teams, when I asked him about when he was in Valorant and he played in 100 Thieves with Nitro, and Nitro was the IGL of that team, he said that at one point, Nitro's... Dude, people haven't got this in CSGO. This is genuinely info no one else has picked up on. He said that Nitro at one point in time told him something like, oh, Alicia's coming soon or whatever. Like, Alicia was going to switch to Valorant, apparently, and become like a player in their team. That was really on the table at one point in time. Obviously, this is when like Liquid wasn't doing that well, right? That alone is not only a bit disturbing because it implies maybe he was thinking about leaving the game, but the bigger issue to me is this. Good luck getting Nitro out of fucking Team Liquid then. If he's really boys with fucking Legion, that's like his described like best friend or whatever. I think Twist said the same shit when he was in the team before. Those are the hardest players to cut because there's a social tie. People get black. They're not going to look at the server there. What they're going to think of is these things. And this is not what we're analysing as analysts. They're going to think of things like, is he a good communicator? Does he cause problems? Like, is he a cool guy? Does he work hard? Like, these are all great things to have, but you have to also be able to do it in the server. And so, unfortunately, like, I don't think Team Liquid's considering the Nitro move. I think it's a valid one to put forward. So I think it has to at least be discussed as a potential problem in the team. Should we move on to another team? Is there anything more with Liquid?
It's such a complicated issue that I genuinely don't feel as though that I have a solid solution either. I mean, I'd love an import IGL. I think this team does definitely have space for it to continue to keep the NA spot and all of that and go through the RMR system. And they've got time to ramp up as well with the kind of the schedule. I mean, doing a roster move at the end of the year like this is the perfect time to do that. But yeah, I think if you have societal ties like that, it's just never going to happen. And for that reason, I mean, maybe you look to maybe OC, but even then, what kind of import AWP would you bring in? It's kind of nominal with the kind of players that you could potentially pick. So overall, I'm kind of just like on Liquid, and I don't think we'll ever see them lift the trophy with this lineup.
Let's talk about the dreaded G2, shall we? Should we just, well, go on, what were you going to say?
No, I mean, just thinking about AWPing stuff quickly, I was just like, there are AWPers you could have brought in, not now, but like a little while ago.
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And that would have, like, bringing in a Dexter who's, you know, free and crazy and impactful, probably shifts the balance of this team in a way that, we're looking at a different roster now. But unfortunately, probably not making that move. Thanks in part to OG having signed him. So it's pretty doom and gloom in terms of other moves you can make. You're not cutting Naf, you're not cutting a Liege, and then your Gindar would make no sense to cut. So they're probably going to sit around and be 5th best in the world for a long time.
They almost certainly will. I think they just keep this lineup and run to the next major minimum would be my guess. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.